Louise Hackett, Director of Communications at Westport Fuel Systems.
Hello, everyone. Welcome. We're so pleased to be here. To start off, I'm Louise. Today, we're going to have a format with 30 minutes of a presentation by our CEO, David Johnson, and then our Director of Business Development, Ulf Lundqvist, and then we'll move on to Vice President of Heavy Duty OEM, Anders Johannesson. And to kick off our conference, what we'd like to share with you is some clips of our recent first fueling of our hydrogen HPDI truck in Sacramento. This is from a few weeks ago. It's going to come across rather dramatic because it's a rather dramatic moment for us. It's a culmination of years of research and innovation. And we'd like to share that with you. And then we will go into David presenting his section.
Thank you very much. So we started that video, or used the tagline, if you will, change without the change. A big game changer for the industry. And that's really what we want to talk to you about today in some detail and show you in a few weeks' time in Hanover, Germany. Westport's HPDI enables us to affordably use green hydrogen in heavy-duty transportation with no performance compromise. And the most exciting part about that is there's very little change required. HPDI is a game changer without the change. Using our Westport Fuel System technology enables us to access the high-performance diesel engines, but with low-carbon fuels, including and especially green hydrogen. And we can do this very, very affordably, very, very easily. And to show how easy, the demonstrator vehicle we'll show you in Hanover is very similar to thousands of production vehicles already on the road in Europe today that run on methane and biomethane. We built and developed this demonstration vehicle to run on hydrogen in just a matter of weeks. And now we're demonstrating it on the road with customers and next in Hanover. So it's really important news. And it's important technology that responds directly to the needs of our planets, the needs of fleets that move all our freight, and the needs of OEMs that want to affordably and profitably respond to regulations while meeting their customers' demand and doing their part to respond to the challenge of a warming planet. Now, on to our conference. My thanks to each and all of you for making time today for this event, and I look forward to the chance to meet you in Hanover in a few weeks' time. Our company, Westport Fuel Systems, perhaps a brief introduction is helpful. We are a Tier 1 supplier of gaseous fuel systems for propane, for natural gas, for auto gas, for biomethane, and for hydrogen, for transportation applications in markets around the world. From the smallest engines to the largest engines, working with distributors and our partners around the world to deliver this clean technology in an affordable way and right now. These aren't experimental products. These aren't research projects. These are products that are being bought and used today in the marketplace to mitigate the adverse effects of transportation with respect to the climate. We have a rich patent portfolio and a really capable team in terms of delivering technologies that clean up transportation. So we're changing the way the world moves, and we're doing it right now. The way we see the opportunity, having joined the Hydrogen Council just in the last year, is that climate change is really an urgent matter, and transportation has a very important role to play. So we have to do our part. And our contribution to this equation to mitigate climate change in transportation is to be able to access cleaner fuels, lower carbon fuels, including hydrogen, and to do so affordably. Because frankly, without affordability, we'll never achieve the scale that's required to make a difference in this world. So that combination of technology that allows us to use cleaner fuels and allows us to do so affordably is the absolute critical ingredients to making a difference and addressing the opportunity and the need that's in front of us. Westport Fuel Systems, we're a specialist. We're a specialist in clean gaseous fuels, from auto gas that's widely used in markets around the world today, through biomethane and also hydrogen. We're supporting fuel cell technology as well as internal combustion engines. Our products are in production and available today, and they're affordable. That affordability, as mentioned, is key to scaling and achieving the volume that's required, the mix that's required, the sales and use that's required to make a difference in this world. And we have right now increasing recognition in our world that hydrogen is going to be very, very important to transportation. And we need to find, and we're able to provide at Westport, a solution that's affordable and effective and practical today. And that's why we're showing this vehicle to you today and in 10 days' time in Hanover that demonstrates that HPDI with hydrogen can make a difference right now with respect to our challenge. Our strategy at Westport is not a new strategy. It's a strategy of continuing to drive the growth of our technologies into the marketplace and make a difference. We're unlocking new and developing markets by delivering clean technology that's affordable, so we can keep moving freight, we can keep moving people without going bankrupt. We can do this right now with the products that Westport Fuel Systems offers. And we recognize, as a growing tier 1 supplier to the automotive and trucking industry, we need to provide excellent products on time with high quality and high affordability. And so with this 3-leg strategy, we're changing the way the world moves. Just to talk a bit about sustainability for our company and for our industry, I really think there are 2 important aspects here. First of all, economic sustainability. Secondly, environmental sustainability. Both are absolutely critical. And sustainability is a foundational building block of Westport Fuel Systems. We've built Westport Fuel Systems by putting together all sorts of companies from around the world, each of which started as an entrepreneur with a better idea for clean, affordable transportation. And now with the whole portfolio of brands and the capability to deliver for our stakeholders, we see the opportunity to deliver clean technology for transportation that's affordable and drives a difference, a real difference for our team members, for our partners and customers, for the environment, and therefore for all of us, a good company that does good in this world. The technologies that we've worked on for years and brought to the market and available today address all of the cleaner, affordable gases that are found in the marketplace today. And importantly, they're renewable counterparts. So as we look at fossil natural gas and see the growth of biogas, biomethane, we see this as a very important step forward on the way to zero carbon hydrogen. And our technologies and our products and our team members are working every day to bring these products to the marketplace in a way that can be accessed by our customers, the OEMs, as well as their customers in using those applications, those vehicles every day. You may know us by many, many brands. And so we've shown them here on this page to give you an idea of the breadth and scope of what we're doing in the marketplace today, both in the aftermarket and for our OEM partners. We have a leading technology position by having developed those technologies to enable them to be used right now. Our solutions are market ready for autogas, CNG, and hydrogen. And with Westport HPDI 2.0, we're the solution for heavy-duty trucking that's needed today. So I think as a tier 1 supplier, I'm very proud of the products we supply. Sometimes when you see a truck, you say, sure, that's a truck, but where is Westport in this equation? So I want to show you very clearly, these are our products. We make the things that make it possible to run fuel cells and internal combustion engines on cleaner gases in an affordable way. Starting on the left, the storage systems that allow us to carry the fuel on board, different than what you use for gasoline and diesel and petrol. The regulators and valves that control that fuel on the way to the injectors that deliver that fuel, and the brains behind it on the right-hand side. And so I think it's important, we'll spend some time here today. I'm going to hand off to my colleague, my teammate, Ulf Lundquist, to talk about our HPDI system, which you can see in the bottom left-hand side, the storage tank, the regulators in the middle of the page, and then the HPDI injector shown in the 4th column from the left at the bottom. These are the products that make it possible to run today in thousands of vehicles in Europe on natural gas and biogas, and run tomorrow with our demonstration vehicle on hydrogen. So with that, let me hand over to Ulf.
Still muted. So now you hear me? Ulf Lundqvist, I'm Director of Business Development, and I will take you through some of our innovations and the HPDI system. So some recent development, as they mentioned before, we have unveiled our heavy-duty H2 HPDI truck. It's actually the first truck in the world that uses hydrogen and has a compression ignition, and it's based on the current system that we have in production since several years. And we had an exercise together with a customer, with Rayleigh and Ozark, and pulled their trailer, and therefore comes this beautiful picture. The drivers were really surprised about the performance of this vehicle. They expected something that would be very lame, but this was actually better performance than the trucks that they were used to. So HPDI, it's a very cost-efficient way to reduce CO2. And if we start with the LNG, liquid natural gas, which we have in production together with our partner since several years, we can deliver same torque, same efficiency, and same reliability as a diesel engine, which is known for its high efficiency and reliability. Just by changing the fuel to natural gas, we reduce the CO2 emission with 20% due to the less carbon content. And with bio LNG, we are reducing the CO2 with 100%. There are reports claiming that with the bio LNG, you could actually have a negative greenhouse gas contribution to 330%, meaning that if 1/3 of your fleet are running HPDI with bio LNG, you are CO2 neutral. This is really unique. And this comes with no changes to the powertrain or vehicle architecture. You can reuse the production lines for the vehicle and the engine, the complete powertrain. You just change the fuel system. And then the latest thing, when we run with hydrogen is a really complicated fuel, has been to run in a combustion engine that has been tried for the last 30 years, and it has been turned down over time. However, with the HPDI system, we make the characteristics of the fuel our benefit. So we can achieve 20% more power, 15% more torque, and also higher efficiency than a diesel engine. And with that, we have near zero CO2 emissions, and we have the lowest cost with CO2 compliance. And as I mentioned before, with the existing engine, with the existing powertrain, just changing the fuel system. So this is a really interesting chart. It requires some explanation. It was the trucking magazine French Routes that made a quite comprehensive test of 3 vehicles with LNG. It was the Volvo, the Scania, and the Iveco. And perhaps you could guess which one later on is using the HPDI system. It's the lowest one. So on the x-axis, you see the mean speed during the mission. And on the y-axis, you see the fuel consumption. And this was, as I mentioned, a very comprehensive test. They ran a very well-defined route. They changed the drivers between the vehicles. They changed the trailers. And they made a very scientific explanation or calculation of the fuel consumption. So the mean speed of the mission, you can translate to drivability, or how easy it is to operate, or good performance it is of the vehicle. And you can see that the Volvo comes out of top. The Scania and Iveco is lagging behind. But perhaps the more important thing is the y-axis. This is an extremely big difference in heavy-duty trucking. So Scania and Iveco is landing on 28 and 25 liters per 100 kilometers, and the Volvo with 18. If you, with the Volvo, add the pilot fluid and the AdBlue, you will end up slightly below 20, but it's still extremely much better than a spark ignited, and the reliability you get for free. Then, if you press the next button, you should see, if you switch to hydrogen, the spark-ignited vehicles will suffer. They will suffer in power, they will suffer in efficiency. And which I mentioned before, it's quite complicated to run with that concept. On our hand, or with our system, with the HPDI system, we get higher efficiency, higher power, so the consumption will go down, and we will also get a higher mean speed on the mission. And this you get to a fraction of a cost what the fuel cell costs. So we have this system on par or even better than in efficiency than a fuel cell vehicle. This also is seen in the total cost of ownership. So the fuel cost, operation cost for the vehicles are more or less the same. However, when you add the amortization on the much more expensive fuel cell vehicle, so if you do it over 5 years' time, or 580,000 kilometers, which is a normal usage for a heavy-duty truck owned by the fleet, you could see that you have 8 to 70% lower total cost of ownership with a H2 HPDI system. So for the truck customer, it's a lower upfront acquisition cost, it's a proven design and durability, it's operating in a familiar way. And for the OEM, it's a low production development cost. You can keep the huge investment you have done in powertrain manufacturing and supply chain, and you can avoid manufacturing and investments into new fuel cells, batteries, and electrical motors, or even worse, sourcing that from outside and losing value creation within your own company. And for the environment, it's renewable, it's zero carbon fuel, it's the lowest path to reduce CO2 as well. Yeah, then I leave over to Anders Johansson, our Vice President for Heavy Duty OEMs.
Thank you, Ulf. It is easy to understand that the market and the customers are excited when they see the excellent technology we have in HPDI. My name is Anders Johansson. I'm responsible for the heavy-duty OEM business within Westport globally, and I will try to give you a bit of an update on the market and future opportunities with HPDI. So in Europe, we launched HPDI several years ago. The natural gas truck market has been growing since. And more importantly, the fraction of HPDI technology in the market has been growing in market share in that growing market. We also see that the fueling stations for LNG is increasing in numbers as well. We are now over 500 fueling stations in Europe. So it is a market growing, and more customers do see the HPDI technology as very favorable when it's easy to drive, good drivability, good power and torque as they are used to, and they also see the very impressive efficiency of the engine. So both the driver and the fleet owner is currently really happy with the technology on the market. So here's a bit of a schematic of the system that we have in production today. And the reason of showing this is that it actually don't differ too much when we will talk about hydrogen HPDI. So this system is supplied to OEM customers today, and it's running in thousands of trucks on the road today since several years with very good performance. It is a complete system. We are specialists in gaseous fuels, as David mentioned before. We do help OEMs to get gaseous drivability on their products. And as I said, most of these components and system architecture are the same between LNG and hydrogen, and that's one of the beauties. So introducing H2 HPDI, as Ulf mentioned before, I think in the grand scheme of things, I think hydrogen combustion in engines, instead of just discussing fuel cells, It will be a very important technology to actually use hydrogen for transportation to moving goods. There will, of course, be segments in the market that, I mean, city delivery trucks, for example, might be better with electric drivetrains, but there will for sure be markets segments within Europe and globally that will benefit from HPDI, especially long haul, long range, heavy duty, heavy payload. In that market segment, I think we are in a very good position with H2 HPDI. So there are several reasons for that, as we have been explaining here a few times. But if you compare it to diesel, other technologies are trying to be the same as diesel. And with hydrogen HPDI, we are far better than diesel, if you have that as a reference, right? So we can do 20% more power than diesel, 15% more torque than diesel on the same engine size, near zero CO2 emissions. We can preserve the existing diesel architecture, and that's really important for investments in the OEM areas, and also preserve the existing engine manufacturing. So we think that this is a golden egg, and this will drive cleaner performance for heavy-duty trucking in Europe and in many other markets in the world. And with that said, I think we are happy to invite you to our booth at IAA. It's in Hall 12, booth 70, and we will be available for discussions and answering questions, and we will be happy to welcome you there. And with that said, I will leave it over to Louise again.
Hey, okay, that was excellent, very informative. And we're about to begin our question and answer period. Stefan, if you could start with the questions.
So thank you very much. And with this, we will move to our Q&A session. If you have a question, you can write it into the chat of this call. Please state your name and your publication, and we will direct your question to the right speaker. Directed to David. So David, can you explain what was your first idea to get to HPDI? So what were your thoughts to develop it? And following up on that, why do you think this wasn't picked up by competitors as well?
Yeah, thank you, Stefan. It's a great question. It goes back to the founding of our company in British Columbia back in the mid-90s. The idea came from people looking for a way to preserve the diesel engine and all the fabulous attributes of the diesel engine, the performance and the efficiency that we all know, and as evidenced by the fact that the diesel engine is the predominant solution today across the world in all heavy load applications. And so how can we preserve what has really served us so well in terms of moving freight and moving loads from place to place over many, many years, and yet do that much more cleanly by accessing clean fuels? And so this is kind of the problem statement, if you will, that led to the innovation that is HPDI. And the innovation is to basically start combustion the same way you start combustion in a diesel engine, but to use cleaner fuels as the second fuel in the product, in the engine, that is the dominant fuel in the engine. And so basically in our products running on the road today, we have this dual fuel injector with concentric needles that we showed during the presentation that is invented by Westport Fuel Systems. We have this tremendous patent portfolio around that because it is quite novel and different than the typical diesel injector or petrol injector that's used today predominantly across most internal combustion engine projects. And so with this innovation, this dual fuel injector that allows us to access cleaner fuels, the really exciting thing for us recently was to recognize that this also works really well with hydrogen. And so we demonstrated this not even a couple of years ago in the engineering world. And then we demonstrated even further in our test labs. And now we're demonstrating it in vehicles, how the combination of these technologies can allow us to use hydrogen and actually have better performance, better power, better torque, and more efficiency. and do so quite easily while preserving all those investments that my colleagues were mentioning earlier regarding billion-dollar manufacturing plans for engines and transmissions and vehicles that all can be preserved and yet get all the way to a zero carbon fuel. And we don't need to wait. We can do it now.
Okay, thank you very much. We got some more questions coming in. First one is from Ashley Newell, maybe also for you, David. Why are you targeting trucks versus passenger cars?
Yeah, so when I think about the challenge for transportation, I think there's various numbers you can see around the world what the contribution is of transportation to our greenhouse gas, climate change, global warming, however you like to call our challenge. The challenge is very severe and important, and we're even late, so we need to go faster. When we look at where to apply technologies to have an impact, trucks tend to be on the order of a few percentage points of all the vehicles on the road. 3, 4, 5% of the vehicles on the road around the world today are trucks, and yet they contribute an outsized portion of the CO2 of transportation on the order of 20 to 25%. So that's huge leverage. And when we look at those applications, we think about decarbonization, and I'll say the typical response of our industry is, oh, let's just electrify everything. I think this idea of electrifying everything is naive. We need to be application specific. We need to think about what those applications are. And when you think about long haul heavy duty trucking, everyone who understands that business well will say that is super hard to decarbonize, especially with battery electric, especially with fuel cells, because of the cost and the demands of that application. So when you study the application space and you come at it from an engineering and a business perspective and say, what are we trying to achieve and how can we do it? We see that HPDI with biogas, HPDI with hydrogen is a super affordable and effective way to address that marketplace that can't be addressed by other technologies so easily or effectively. And therefore, this is our focus and our target.
Okay, thank you very much. So the next question comes from Andrea Paoletti from Corriere Motori from Italy. And I think it's a question for Anders to answer. So the question is the system available in Italy, and have you already tested it on trucks circulating in Italy?
Yes, we have. I mean, we are selling our system in partnership with OEMs, and we do have OEM customers in Europe who is currently selling on the main European markets, including Italy, and has been for several years. So we do have a lot of our systems on trucks on the road in Italy already, and have been for many, many years.
Okay, thank you very much. So while we're waiting for further questions coming in, another question maybe also for you, Anders. So HPDI needs lower green hydrogen prices. So could you please tell the reason why you're confident about such a forecast?
Yeah, well, we think in a bigger perspective, we do believe that hydrogen will be a fuel for heavy duty trucking in the future. It's a bit hard to predict when it will be material, how big it will be, and what year it will come. But whenever it will come, we know that we are in a very good position with H2HPDI, and that is sort of the same question you can put on hydrogen for transportation, independent of what kind of technology you use. But I think we have different solutions for it. We use bio-LNG today, which is an excellent fuel, and we can essentially use the same system for the future for hydrogen. And whenever that comes, we will be in a very good position.
I think adding to that, with entering into the hydrogen society with a demand of electricity and store electricity, we have now a shortage of electricity in several places. In some places we have surplus of electricity, like in the northern part of Sweden and Norway, we are not able to use all our electricity. And then it makes sense, a lot of sense, to produce hydrogen, green hydrogen. and store the energy. And in parallel, we have the huge initiative for reducing carbon from the steel industry. So there will be a lot of hydrogen floating around in the society. So it makes a lot of sense to tap this resource also to transportation, especially as David mentioned, for heavy duty transportation, which is perhaps the most complicated transportation branch to decarbonize.
And maybe to add to that, if I may, I think independent of what price it will be on the fuel, it makes a lot of sense to have the most efficient way of using that energy on the road. And we think we are on top of that. So I would say, independently of the price, we would make use of the fuel in the best way to transport goods from position A to B in the cheapest way with hydrogen.
Yeah, I think it's all very good comments, and I only can't help myself but to add that we as society and our industry and our regulators, we all need to come to an understanding that we will have many different technologies and solutions. And over time, we'll figure out which of these apply best to which applications. But we should not be of a mind to say we're waiting for perfection in order to move forward. We are way late in responding to climate change. The needs are urgent. And then when you have geopolitical issues like we have right now in Europe and energy prices are going higher, it only makes it more clear that we need this diversity of solutions and we need this diversity of fuels. And the economy and physics and economics will help us find exactly which ones apply where and have the biggest impact. When we do that analysis, it seems quite clear that hydrogen is an important part of the future, that excess green energy can be stored in hydrogen, and then that hydrogen can be used and will need to be used as a precious commodity as efficiently and effectively as possible. And with hydrogen HPDI, we believe we have the solution that responds best from an affordability and practicality standpoint, and it can do so now.
Thank you very much. The next question comes from Max Grunig of Hydrogen Mobility Future. If I got it right, it's not a 100% hydrogen version. Yet, are you planning it in the future? When? So maybe that's a question for Ulf.
Yeah, so the HPDI system with a pilot fluid like a chemical spark plug has proven to be super reliable, and it's a very good ignition source, and it's fit for life. You don't need to change your spark plug. It's in there for the life of the vehicle, and we use like 2% of 2 to 3%, a few percent of this pilot fluid. That could be normal diesel fuel or biodiesel fuel to make the ignition. So coming the 97-98% way is sufficient from an environmental point of view, but there could be image and political benefit to have the 100% reduction. So we are working towards reducing and removing the pilot, and it will come in due time.
Okay,
but first, the most important is to launch this as soon as possible, so we can benefit, the planet to benefit from this 97-98% CO2 reduction already now.
Thank you. And the next question, also for you maybe, comes from Keith Stolgen. How is this solution better than hydrogen with fuel cell?
Yeah, it's a vehicle is a complicated topic. There are pros and cons, but with the fuel cell, I've been in the business all my life. For 30 years ago, started with fuel cell development. It's continued until now, so it has been refined. And we started 2 years back with this applying hydrogen in this combustion concept, and we are on par or even better in efficiency compared with the fuel cell. And the reason for this is that a combustion engine, on-throttle compression ignited engine, has a very flat efficiency map. So it has very high efficiency on mid load, low load, and high load. While the fuel cell, when you start to get higher load on the fuel cell, the efficiency goes down. That's one thing. Then this big challenge with the fuel cell vehicle is the cooling. If you have around 50% efficiency, it means that 50% goes to the propulsion, and the rest will become heat that you need to cool away with cooling water with a quite low temperature, around 8 degrees. And in a combustion engine, you remove most part of that heat with exhaust gases. So if you look at the fuel cell vehicle, you will recognize that the cooling system is huge and will create parasitic losses and also make it not a preferable solution in hot countries. But the overruling thing is the cost. It's much cheaper with the H2 HPDI than a fuel cell vehicle.
Yeah, and I think it's safe to say, it's fair to say, it's appropriate to say that surely there will be some applications for fuel cells. There are already applications of fuel cells, but the opportunity that we see is to have a portfolio of solutions and to apply those where they fit best. And certainly in heavy-duty long haul, the combination of the efficiency that we can deliver with the affordability we can deliver with HPDI means it'll be an important part of the response to the climate change challenges, the CO2 regulations OEM face, and the real world needs of fleets trying to move freight on a reliable day in, day out basis.
Thank you very much. The next question comes from C. Craning. Where in the world do you see the first adoption of hydrogen HPDI heavy trucks? Maybe that's a question for Anders.
Yes, I believe hydrogen is a bit unique if you look back in history, since it is a huge interest in all markets around the world, I would say, almost. So I think that the technology fits in North America, it fits in Europe, it fits in Asia, it fits in most countries that are today very much discussing hydrogen as a solution for transportation.
Yeah, frankly, I think we very much will have a race on our hands, or maybe already do, right? As companies around the world, governments around the world take action to provide green hydrogen. You know, frankly, green hydrogen is the long-term solution to many of the energy needs in the world, including transportation. And so those governments, those regions of the world that build out of that hydrogen infrastructure first are going to be also the ones that access hydrogen HPDI first. But we're getting a tremendous amount of demand for all the markets in the world because people recognize that this is an extremely practical, pragmatic, investment efficient, economic, and green technology that's available now. So the development path is not an extended development path of some new technology. The trucks are already on the road running today with biomethane. So this step that needs to be taken is not a big leap. It's I would call it normal development, validation, and start production. And so we're very eager and excited about the work we're already doing with customers around the world to bring this technology to the marketplace. Sometimes I wonder who doesn't need clean technology, who doesn't need an affordable truck. So when you ask who's going to be first, I'm kind of wondering who's going to be last.
That's a good point.
Okay, thank you very much. So while waiting for the next question, maybe I have another one for Anders. Do you think all OEMs are aware of the chance to use hydrogen in internal combustion engines instead of cell fuels only?
I think that most OEMs are aware. I think this is we provide very impressive results and very impressive numbers and efficiency numbers. So most OEMs are aware for sure. And I think a lot of OEMs back in history as well have tried very well to do internal combustion engines with hydrogen, but the most attempts have been with spark ignited solutions. And as Ulf explained before, that's really difficult. It's really difficult to get any good drivability, good power, good torque, good efficiency. And now we have the solution for that. Yeah, I think the future is looking really good for HPDI in the hydrogen space.
If I could add on to your comments, Anders, I think there is an awareness, a broad awareness with the OEMs around the world that basically we've been the one bringing that message to those OEMs so they can understand. And the need is to broaden that awareness and true understanding, because I would tell you that in the market, as we've brought HPDI to market in Europe, the first idea when people hear about a natural gas fueled truck is they think they know what the performance is based on their experience with spark ignited engines, because spark ignited natural gas engines have been around for a long time. We face the same challenge of having people truly understand what a hydrogen fueled truck with an internal combustion engine really means. Because the first thing that they think about is the engine they ran 20 years ago with hydrogen, which did not run very well. As Anders was explaining, not good performance, not good efficiency, poor transient behavior, all sorts of challenges in running a spark ignited hydrogen engine. So we do have work to do. And it's part of the purpose of coming to Hanover in 2 weeks' time, is to help people truly understand by seeing a demonstrator vehicle. And then we take that demonstrator vehicle with the keys and hand it to people and say, drive this truck. And with that firsthand experience, then the message is starting to resonate in the halls of all the OEMs around the world about what HPDI with hydrogen can truly deliver for those OEMs and for their customers and for the environment.
Thank you very much. Maybe going back to Anders, you were talking about the comparison between HPDI and fuel cells. But what about the comparison between HPDI and electrical trucks? Where do you see the difference there?
Well, let's say on the technical side, I think that the electrical solutions will have issues when it comes to the more payload you need to run, the longer distance you need to run. So the more heavy duty, the more long haul application, the more difficult it will get with electricity, to be honest. So different market segments, I think we have to be honest and say that there will be different solutions in different market segments. The other piece is the economics. I think that H2 HPDI will be for sure a much more affordable solution, both when it comes to the product on the street for the fleet owners, TCO calculations, when it comes to investments from the OEMs. You can still use the same factories. You don't need to put a lot of development cost on the powertrains and vehicles. So it's the financials and economics around it, the time to market, affordability are probably the best aspects, I think.
Thank you very much. Maybe to our audience, if you have any questions, please feel free to write them in the chat. If you have any questions afterwards, also please feel free to send them to us and we will answer them to you very shortly. So while we're waiting for the next questions, maybe let's get back to David. India seems to be the next big thing in your market. How do you want to tackle that market and take advantage of it?
Yeah, the Indian market is interesting for us. We see a very big push here again, government taking action to access cleaner fuels by building out natural gas refueling infrastructure. They're on a path to 10,000 refueling stations by the end of the decade, and they're well on that path. So here we are in 2022, and they're already in excess of 4,000 stations, when just a couple of years ago, it was sub 1,000 stations. So this is a big trajectory for India to clean up their transportation fleet, both with respect to breathable air as well as from a climate change perspective. And their path is natural gas now and hydrogen coming right on the heels of natural gas. And so it's a very important market for us. We are there already, acting with the leading companies like Tata for trucks and Maruti Suzuki for cars. So this is important. It's growth, and it has a path onto hydrogen we think is very important.
Thank you. And moving from India to Europe. So LPG registrations are picking up in Europe. So is that the reason why you announced a new OEM partnership starting next year? So what's behind that?
Yeah, so for sure, one of the things that's a big driver in the markets where we have the highest penetration and success is the economics of the actual vehicle at the end of the day. And right now, with the way energy prices have been moving disparately between LPG and petrol, we have some of the most advantageous economic conditions for LPG products in the marketplace today. And so we see this in our aftermarket business, but we also see it in the demand from OEMs. So we're very excited to announce that new customer and their ambitions for growing in the marketplace, and for Westport Fuel Systems to support them by delivering the product they need to satisfy their customers and to clean the air and do so affordably and economically.
Okay, thank you. Maybe going back to the use cases for HPDI. So in this presentation today, you were talking about heavy duty trucks, but would it also be possible to use it for lighter commercial vehicles as well? Okay, so maybe that's
I can answer that.
Maybe for Ulf.
Yeah, this we have the, as David said, it we have the highest and most complicated way to decarbonize is the long haulage heavy duty trucks, and so that's the first place. Then for the mid duty, it's a possibility, but that will be the second step. So we should really focus on the heavy duty long haulage to start with.
Thank you very much. So I see no further questions coming in. So I think we can close it for today. So thank you very much for taking the time and participating in our press conference today.